Everybody here, we'll make a start. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Woodley Town Council, being held on the 3rd of December 2024, almost Christmas. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image or audio to be recorded, then please do not stay in the meeting. For those in attendance, we are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if you hear a fire alarm, please head out to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. So prior to the full council meeting this evening, we always hold the town forum, which is an opportunity for members of the public to pose any questions that they may have to the council, and this is limited to 30 minutes. And I believe, Mr. Millard, you have a question?
No, so I think it's I'm strange for it. My question is about the strategy and resources meeting last Tuesday. Yeah? Now,
You do need them. I'm really sorry, we're going to have to just...
I'm really nervous.
No, that's fine, don't worry about it.
Last Tuesday's evening's R&S,
Yeah.
there was a conversation
Yes.
about Weaver Park. What I want to know or understand is what is the meaning of residents in this area paying rent to Reading Borough Council?
And what is the significance?
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah, what is that about? Being concerned about Weaver Park?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Miller, I should take that back. I think the most appropriate person to answer that is Keith, and I think it's quite difficult to answer that because I think it's been taken out of context, because there was a whole big conversation about it.
I can understand it.
There was a whole big conversation, so I think we sort of moved on from that point by the end, but if you could just clarify a little, that might help me. Yeah, of course you can.
Evening, Mr. Millard. Basically, the land and the facility is owned by Reading Borough Council. This town council leases it from Reading Borough Council. So this town council, i.e. the town residents, are paying the lease, the low-cost lease to Reading Borough Council. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
What was coming about funding it or making it, but then because I can't understand what it's got to do with Reading Borough Council.
Right, okay, let me clarify that then.
It's Woodley, isn't it?
Right.
It's
a question of ownership, and I suppose I can easily sort of try and relate it. Is would you pay for the upkeep of your next door neighbour's garden? You'd say no, because it belongs to the next door. This facility belongs to Reading Borough Council.
Yeah, I understand.
And the debate we had is, should we continue investing in that facility using Woodley Town residents' money, right? Or should we say to Reading Borough Council, it is your facility, you take it back. The debate ended to say, basically, we will continue in exactly the same way as we are doing today, but there will be a plan.
So basically saying, yeah, don't get this right, the question I was a bit concerned about is the question asked about if you paid rent, right? If you paid rent, Reading Borough Council, now what's that got to do with Weaver Park?
Okay, on
what
that.
About the allotments, do we lease that? Where do we get that from?
We lease it from them, but the point about the council tenants or whatever.
I've got my point across.
Okay, right, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. To June next and then to Kay.
We're not actually in our meeting yet, are we? So,
No.
I'll defer speaking, Madam, when we talk about the minutes, because I've got a similar point to raise, Mr. Millard.
Okay, but please be mindful that you can, we won't be accepting statements. You can ask for clarification or a question.
It is.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay, do you wish to add anything to that? Mr. Millard feels happy that he's had his points across.
You're talking about the actual council houses that are paying rent through to Reading. When the estate was built, I assume Reading Council actually owned that land. The council houses on it were paying rent to Reading, but they paid the council tax to Wokingham. So it's a most peculiar situation because as people have bought their own houses, then from
No, it's just that when I heard that, I couldn't believe it. But I just wanted more clarification on what it's actually about.
yes, the council houses are owned by Reading.
Forget it.
Mr. Millard, also, if you wish to seek further clarification,
No,
the minutes are available online, so have a read of that and see if that helps as well. Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any, there's nobody else there, so as there aren't any more questions from members of the public, we will commence with the agenda, if that's okay with everybody. The first item on the agenda is apologies. Matthew, we have received apologies for absence tonight. Could you just go through them?
Yes, we've received apologies from councillors Bellow, Guttridge, Horskins, Nagra and Soane. Councillor Horskins is attending the meeting virtually.
Good evening, Robert. Thank you. Those will be noted. The second item on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest from councillors regarding any item in tonight's agenda? No, thank you very much. Thank you for that. When we, the next item, item 3, is to receive the minutes of the full council meeting held on the 24th of September this year. The minutes are included in this agenda and can be seen on page 3. Are there any questions or comments regarding these?
I will just state that the minutes, just to say, have got the incorrect date on the top of them, so we will reprint the front sheet before they're signed by the mayor.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So we're happy with these. Can we please move to a vote on accepting these minutes as a true and correct record? Those in favour, please raise their hands.
That's everyone.
Lovely. Thank you very much. The minutes have been duly approved as a true record, and I will sign those once the date's been changed. I think that's okay. Item 4, to receive the minutes of standing committee meetings, which have taken place since our last full council meeting. The first one we're going to cover is the Planning and Community Committee, which took place on the 15th of October. Please can I ask Councillor Bragg, Deputy Chairman, and Phil Stones here this evening, to present the minutes of the Planning and Community Committee, and they are on page 19 of your agenda. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present to you all the minutes of the Planning and Community meeting held on Tuesday, the 15th of October, here at the Oakwood Centre, which go from page 19 to page 24. If you have any questions.
No questions. So assuming that everybody's happy with that, then those minutes are noted. Thank you very much, David. Can I once again ask Councillor Bragg, as Deputy Chairman, to present the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting, which took place on the 12th of November, set out on page 25 of the agenda.
Once again, I will present the minutes of the Planning and Community Committee held on Tuesday, the 12th of November, here at the Oakwood Centre, which go from page 25 to page 30. If there are any questions?
Do?
A couple. Sort of lot of things really. One of the things that we discussed at PSC was we heard about this community governance review that Woking Borough Council are doing around parish boundaries or it's got quite a wide sort of scope. And I note from Mike's report later on that this was broached at the parish liaison committee. But when we discussed it last month, we noted that Wokingham were going to send out terms of reference for everybody to have a look at with a view to starting consultation in January. And as of our meeting on the 12th, we haven't had those terms of reference yet. So I just wondered whether they dropped up in the meantime.
No, I don't have those at the moment. I'll follow that up.
Particularly so that if we could get those before Christmas, so that you've got a fighting chance of looking at those before January would be good.
And I mean, it might not even affect us. Until we see the terms of reference, we won't know, but it'll be good to see them, wouldn't it? The other thing we talked about was the government consultation on the remote attendance of meetings, and I know the officers have posted that consultation document on our website. But we did also say, that's from individual responses, that it would come to the council for consideration, and it isn't on the agenda tonight, so I'm guessing we'll kind of vote to send out a response from the entire council because the consultation closes on the 19th this month. So I really just wanted to kind of urge everybody who hasn't been in and should be able to respond to do that. So that we have contributed.
Yes, thank you. And independent responses are really valid and very useful. So please feel free to do that. Thank you, June. That's really helpful. The next one is the Leisure Services Committee. Can I please ask Councillor Smith, as Chairman of the Leisure Services Committee, to present the minutes of the meeting which took place on the 19th of November?
Thank you. I'd like to present the minutes of the last Leisure Services Committee meeting on Tuesday the 19th of November, dated 31 to 34, or noted minutes.
Any questions? Thank you. Those minutes are noted. Thank you very much. We move on to strategy and resources now. Can I please ask Councillor Baker, as Chairman of the Committee, to present the minutes of the strategy and resources meeting, which took place on the 26th of November, commencing on page 35.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present to the committee the minutes of the meeting of the Strategy and Resources Committee held here on Tuesday, 26th of November, last Tuesday, which are found on pages 35 to 72. We covered a huge amount of ground. Thank you very much to all members of that committee. We did manage to fit it in within the 10:30 limit. There are 3 items for full council to vote on, which you can see on page 2, minute 47.2 and minute 50. It would be good if we can take them all together, but if there are specific issues with any one of those, you can then take them individually when they're understood.
Yes, thank you, and then we'll open to questions after that. So, is everybody comfortable if we take all of those 3 together? Yeah, okay. So the 3 are that full council approves the updates to the standing orders as provided in Appendix D, that full council approved and updated financial regulations as provided in Appendix E, and that full council approved the scheduled meetings for the year 25-26 as attached to the. So, can I please have all in favour?
All 20, thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you very much. Do any councillors have any questions? June, I think, wants to come in.
Did you want to ask about this that we just agreed with?
No, it's about the minutes actually.
Or if you're, if I could, sorry, I've got 2 things here as well. Quite handily, we just also approved the change where we can ask questions, seat allocation, or an update. So both of the things I would like to ask questions about are under minute 41, and that was a discussion on Legal Park, which unfortunately I couldn't attend, but I have watched it on YouTube, and I had a similar concern as Ms. Millard. In the minutes, it says that a number of the properties around the park are owned by Reading Borough Council. And in the meeting, the chairman went on to say that the parents of the children in the vicinity are paying rent to Reading Borough Council. So they're really Reading Borough Council children and not our own children. Now, this view was challenged by other members of the committee at the time, but mindful of council leaders' comments at our last full council that the degree of trust between politicians and residents has hit rock bottom, my question is, can the Chair of Strategy and Resources simply confirm the reassurance of the people in my ward that whether a resident is an owner-occupier, a council tenant, or a private renter, this will have no bearing on the committee's consideration of the merit of owning or not Legal Park. So it's just a simple reassurance. That's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Would you like to go next, Anne, and I'll do the
And then we'll put this sandwich in between. So Anne, if you'd like to go next, and then come somebody over here.
I might have a question. I should have apologised for not being here earlier. It's item 42, the third paragraph on the slide. I don't know, it's page 43, it's item 56. The council program street proposed projects.
Yes, so just an update on that. Councillor Taylor picked that up via email this morning as well. So it's updated for when the minutes come to SML for approval in January. So yeah, that's sent to go. So there were 3 projects in the SIL funding request. So I've just extended that sentence to include it. It does stop. It should have all 3 projects.
Thank you, Anne. Well spotted. June, coming back to you, and then we're going to Kes.
So this is getting back to minute 41 and the discussion on Legal Park, but it's a bit more kind of generic. When this was being discussed by the committee, the kind of preamble was all around the fact that new services was coming through shortly, and there were all sorts of proposals in there, and it was flagged that they're going to be quite costly. And again, it was suggested that we may be faced with an either-or choice between these services or Legal Park. And this is kind of a bit of a recurring theme for me, is I really do not understand how our budget process works. And I've done quite a bit of sort of trawling through all the material that we publish on the website, and Ken gave me quite a bit of his time to just kind of explain how it works. But my question really is whether Strategy and Resources could provide the rest of us with basically a process around how this budget process works. So almost like a flow chart, a timeline, and also sort of cross-reference it to the kind of strategies that we use to make decisions. Because certainly, I mean, I'm sort of 18 months in now, my first experience of seeing the budget, I really haven't got the kind of tools to even have the conversation about how did we get to the sort of conclusion. And I kind of feel as though we ought to know how that works, and also how to be most effective about pushing things forward. Certainly in my experience from a sort of professional point of view about dealing with budgets, it's an iterative process, and it's quite a lot of bargaining goes on, and with controlling authority, and it's like, I'd like to do this, but I'll give you that, and then you sort of trim your sales accordingly, and somebody's responsible for making sure across the piece for all the different groups come up with a rational budget. And this is clearly going on somewhere, but it's not visible to sort of ordinary, well, I class myself as an ordinary member who's not on SNR, I don't really understand how it works. So I don't know whether this is a clarification or a plea for help.
Can I ask one of the officers just to have a quick oversight of the flow diagram, for example? So I think there are lots of there are 2 different things in there.
So really, sorry, I think the process is actually a very good idea. because I can confirm from my own experience, I've been doing this for too long, but, but there is no documented flowchart or process. And I think I would absolutely say that should be available, and it should be available at time of induction, because that's the time when you need to know the basics and then go forward. And I can see Kevin nodding, so I believe that means that that's going to be in hand. But in a very simplistic way, we have three main committees, as you know: planning and community, leisure, and S&R. Each one has their own budget, okay, which gets approved at those committee meetings. Any councillor can go to that committee meeting when the budget's being discussed, and subject to the chairman allowing, and hopefully all chairmen would allow, participate in the discussions and debate. In terms of what they are actually debating, that basically, it's not like you described what happens outside, you know, somebody puts through a proposal, then it's worked on, and some things get given and some things are taken away, etc. It tends to be more, the officers come up, they know what projects are coming along. So for instance, S&R capital projects, they know what's coming along, they know what's either the additional budget or is already in a contingency fund or something like that, so there isn't an additional cost. But they present what they consider to be an appropriate budget to each one of those committees. The committees then debate it. They have the right to send it back or whatever. They have the right to change it dramatically, okay? But ultimately, we have got a finite amount of money we can spend. That's a given, I'm afraid.
Well, is it though?
It is. Because, well, when you set the budget, you set precepts.
We're not supposed to be doing this here.
I'm just trying to give you.
I know,
But I think it was a really valuable question, June, and I do think we need to look at that. I would agree completely with the I agree completely with the process bit. We need to clarify that for everybody because I think it can be quite foggy. I think there are a couple of other people. So first of all, Kester, then Yvonne, and then Robert. So Kester, I'll come to you next.
Yeah, mine's very, very quick. I spoke to Kevin this morning about the time. Again, those who can't be adjourned, just to make sure that that's still in numbers. Question for Keith, what's the general reserves and how much is that?
I'm going to have to defer that.
Okay, off the top of my head, I don't have the exact figure, but the outturn figure, so at the end of the last financial year, the general reserve was at I think it was 849,000.
That provisions or whatever needs to be.
What that is the unallocated funds that the council has, which doesn't take account of, for example, the investments that the council has for paying off the loans for this building, because that's allocated money. So it's unallocated funds. So the council has the general reserve to that fund, and we have a number of earmarked reserves, which are smaller funds that the council has set up through the year. I can provide you with that. It was in the budget papers for that go out in January. So now the new one will be coming out after Christmas and go through the committee cycle. We'll have estimates in it for what that reserve is likely to look like at the end of
just to bring, because that question is actually related to the minutes as opposed to the reserves. The way, at the end of the debate, what my expectation is, and the request has gone in, that a long-term development plan for Weevil Park is put in place by officers. That will have a cost associated with it, and therefore that has to be rolled into the project process to make sure that the funding is there. So all the debate about who owns it, etc., is now dead, gone. We will continue to manage it. We will have an investment plan, which all councillors, and particularly the Welsh councillors, will be very active in discussing what we would like to see. So that's what I'm expecting to happen as part of this budget process.
Yvonne?
I'm sorry, it's the same issue again, but I think we lost the first part of Jude's question for clarification in terms of the Youth Services Committee over the past year. We've put in an awful lot of work, and the officers as well, in making plans to go forward with youth services, to find at the strategy and resources that it was pitted against improvements to Webble Park, which is something that had not occurred, I'm sure, to any of us on that committee. Can we have clarification that that isn't the case, that if we want to make some improvements to Weeble Park, that it's not going to be taken away from the youth services?
Yeah, in the short, no, I've just explained, the agreement was that we're going to have a long-term financial plan, full stop. Stop trying to link it with other things. The youth services work, which has been exemplary and fantastic for all the people, thank you for everyone who's been involved. At the moment, it's full of aspiration. It doesn't have any implementation. It doesn't have any finance associated with it. And when that is put together, that will come to S&R, probably, hopefully, part of the budget. There is 35,000 set aside, but if what the Youth Services Committee wanted to do, for argument's sake, cost 45,000, we have to find that extra money, or say, no, we can only do 35,000. So that'll be part of that budget. Okay, so the Weeble Park, I can't say it often enough, all sorted, separate. It will be part of the budget setting. Hopefully it will be agreed. I can't speak for everybody, but hopefully it will be agreed and it will go through on the budget.
And I think, Yvonne, it was a testament to your, preparation and your presentation that that committee did move. We had a conversation, we had a discussion, we had a debate, a very healthy debate, and by the end of it, the position had changed. So I hope you're assured by that.
But thank you, I was. Thank you. And I wasn't trying to link anything to anything else. I was trying to understand, Kate. So
thank you, Yvonne. Roberts, we're going to come to you. You'll have to shout up.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Thanks. Some passionate discussion and debate there. I do hope that all councillors actually read through agendas for any committees, be they on them or not. And as Keith said, stole some of my thunder actually. And as Keith said, every councillor has a right to ask a chairman to come to any committee. And if people like Yvonne and Hester said there, they've got a real particular passion for something, then flag it up and come to that meeting. Because if you've watched that meeting on YouTube, you'll see there was some great heated debate and discussion, and even a little bit of dissension as well amongst some of us about how we deal with Weeble Park. And I think it's really important that councillors do come to committee meetings and voice their opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for noting that. And everybody's always very welcome. Okay, so is everybody comfortable that we move on from that then? Lovely, thank you. We move on to now the leader's statements, which is the next item on the agenda, and that will be from Councillor Baker. Would you like to provide a statement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Welcome to the last meeting, full council meeting before Christmas. And I thank all the officers and councillors for their commitment over the last year. It has been exceptional. So thank you personally to each and every one of you. There are some great things to look forward to next year, including the installation of the long-awaited CCTV in the town centre, better audio facilities, which I'm sure Beth will be happy about, for our meeting rooms, including the essential audio loop for those with hearing difficulties, and the appointment of a specialist consultant to help us bring the theatre facilities, which is the primary facility of this council, into the 21st century. It is, however, very sad that the final financial commitment towards the CCTV made by the leader of Woking Borough Council at the last full council before the May elections has not been followed through, despite the town clerk and local councillors chasing for it. The CCTV project will continue with the Town Council covering, if necessary, any excess costs that the WBC contribution should have covered. Later on in the agenda, you'll see the outcome of a code of conduct complaint against 2 of our town councillors. Despite being on the committee that discussed the CCTV project and voting, they voted for the referral of a decision pending further information. They decided to publish an election newsletter saying clearly that this committee voted against having the CCTV. After investigating the complaint, they were both found guilty of making statements that were blatantly false. In light of this decision, I believe the 2 town councillors should apologise to the town council for deliberately misleading residents with this false information over the coming weeks. So please, Kevin, if you can communicate with me.
Lovely, thank you, Keith, for that statement. We move on to outside bodies now. Item 6 is to receive the written reports in Appendix 6, and these start on page 73 of the agenda. And please note that there is an additional one on the table in front of you for the Robert Palmer's Art House from Councillor Bragg. Has anybody got any questions regarding any of these? And I'd just like to commend everybody for getting all of those reports in. It's a much better way of doing this, having these, sent in and reported, and they're actually visible to people. I think the transparency is really important. Has anybody got any questions? Yes, Jim.
It's for Rob, actually. It's about the Friends of Woodford Park. And Rob, I just noticed in the report, one thing the people talking about, the volunteers are a bit thin on the ground at the moment. And certainly the chap who organises that mentioned that to me during the climate emergency walk round. But I'm a bit concerned that towards the end, it mentioned that they used to host bi-monthly public meetings that were quite well attended. But it says then that general feedback from the public was that no results were ever seen from the council. Hence, since COVID, those meetings haven't been recommenced. And I just wondered if there was anything that we could do for them since they.
June, I think you're reading the last one from the last meeting, aren't you?
No, it's the one on this agenda.
Dated the 27th of November.
Oh, hang on, let me just refresh myself here.
Is there a particular place that says that, June, just to make it?
Yes, it's right at the bottom of the chunky bit. Can you stand there? Sorry, I haven't.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the big paragraph on 77.
Oh yeah. So they haven't recommenced. So the group meet up every month with Colin, and I've been to a few of those meetings when I've been in Woodley. But they were having meetings with members of the public. But as it says there, because of lack of feedback and involvement from the public, they haven't recommenced. I mean, David Probins, who you're referring to, June, he does so much work in that park, and he has a very few limited number of volunteers. And if councillors could help jiggle along some people to go and help volunteer, and indeed maybe turn up themselves occasionally on a Tuesday morning to a bit of help, I'm sure he'd be very grateful. How can we start out those meetings?
Can I ask for clarification? Because actually what it actually says is the general feedback from the public was that no results were ever seen from the council, hence these have not started against COVID. Do you mean nothing was seen from the council, or is that just a mistake?
I think, Julia, it was a historical thing. Maybe I need to re-update my little brief synopsis of the outside body's work, perhaps. Maybe it's a little bit out of date. Because if you refer back to my last one, it's just giving an overview of what that group's been doing.
still exactly the same.
Okay, June, do you want to come back on that?
No, I was just concerned if there was anything we could do that we weren't doing.
Thank you, Robert. Darren?
Yeah, just to add to Robert's comments, actually, we included the Friends of Woodland Park on our planning agenda for the Leisure Services Committee because for the very point that they weren't getting, they didn't feel they were getting their comments back. So we have invited them to attend at each of the meetings, and also to provide an update or a report to us. Now, at the last meeting, they either attended or provided a report. That's happened at the last couple of Leisure Services meetings now. So we're providing the opportunity for them to feed back to us as they have feedback from members of the public. So I think it's important members of the public walk around the park, they might see or have an idea, they see a member of Friends there and they have a discussion, and we want to try and capture that information if we can. So we agreed to do those things as part of our regular Leisure Services meeting. So I have to say, maybe it's this time of year, it's a bit dark and dank, and therefore we haven't had a lot of feedback. Maybe I'll pick up in the springtime, for example. But that's what we did and try and improve that.
So Dan, that's really helpful, thank you. Kevin, could we just approach them and see if there's a better way to communicate with them that is more appropriate?
Yeah, I think that just might be, as Robert said, a historic statement. We do mean the thing.
It is, yeah. It is a historic statement, but that was what we did.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think Hester first and then you
Yeah,
go.
so I just agree with Kevin, if there's got someone here who represents Woodford Park, reports back to the committee what's going on, so we've got someone in council they can speak to and voice their opinions for them.
I mean, that's Councillor Hawkins sits on that group.
David, and then I'll come to Karen.
When I was chair of Leisure Services, and up to the COVID lockdown period, David used to go along to every single leisure meeting, regular attendance report, on what had happened in the park, what they're doing, and everything else. And that was always reported and minuted for public viewing.
Thank you, David. Carol, and then we'll move on.
I think David suggested that we don't hear anything from the Friends of Woodford Park, but we have had a report every Leisure Services Committee. And I think there's much more of a link now than there was. Hopefully Rob is keeping in touch as well, maybe not here now, but keeping in touch with friends.
Lovely. So just to clarify, they have sent a report to the Leisure Services.
Apologies that I missed that.
That's fine. Don't worry. Thank you very much. Robert, do you have anything to add?
Yes, please. Yeah, just say back to Hester. Yes, although I'm currently in Chester, but obviously I do actually live in Cornwall now. And I did ask David Provins if he would like me to stand down as being the council's link with the Friends of Woodford Park. And they took it to their committee meeting and they all discussed it and said that no, they still wanted me to be their representative. And I'm happy to continue. I do WhatsApp David occasionally. I can pretty much 100% guarantee probably watching this live now on YouTube as well. So there is still a good communication and a really good relationship that we have. And don't feel that because I'm not actually in the park every week, that I don't have a really good 100% vested interest in it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And we'll just take peace and then we'll move on.
I just want to clarify to everyone, because I think we're talking about the wrong thing. That last sentence is about the general public feedback. It's not about access to us or we're having access to them. It's about the general public. So they had public meetings here and didn't get the sort of response they were hoping in terms of numbers and in terms of comment, because there was no representation from the council. That actually, if you read that, Woodford Park, that is no results have ever been seen from the council and Friends of Woodford Park, because they're doing so much of it. So that's the point that we really need to try and address to them. How do we get general public to come in and give them the feedback?
And I think that's been a helpful conversation to clarify that, because June, I read it exactly the same as you, and I'm sure other people would as well. So thank you for the clarification, everybody. That's very helpful. Any other comments on any of those written reports? No? Super. Item 7 on the agenda is an update on the Mayor and Deputy Mayor's engagement since our last meeting, which can be seen on page 85. And David and I have been very busy, and I would just like to thank David tremendously. I do work full time, and some of the daytime things are quite difficult for me to get to. And David's been an absolute star attending those, and we've had some really lovely events. And hopefully over the next year or so, we can really start to find mechanisms to publicise what we're doing as mayor and deputy mayor, just so that everybody is fully sighted on it, because they're lovely and we really like you to know what we're doing in the community, because hopefully it will be a knock-on effect for you as well, with your communities around you. You know, if they see us walking around in our finery. Anything you'd like to add, David?
I would like to say that the list that I've done, I've thoroughly enjoyed. The Thames and Children in Bloom was a magnificent event, presenting 29 trophies. I don't think I've had a photo taken so many times in one day before. The schools, the two clusters that I did, the historical one and the climate change, the kids were magnificent. They really were. They knew what they were doing. They knew all about the subject, and some of the presentations were absolutely fantastic. And last but not least, I enjoyed was joining Councillor Kennedy at the Lions Charter Night. It was a magnificent evening, and congratulations to everyone.
Lovely, thank you, David, that's very helpful. So item 8 is simply to note the outcome of the Code of Conduct complaint undertaken by Woking Borough Council that was checked earlier by Councillor Baker. The details are provided in Appendix 8, page 86 of the agenda. Item 9. Sorry.
Would I like to speak to 8?
Yes, of course you may.
Just really to agree with Keith that this council deserves an apology on the back of this complaint. So I'd just like to make a short statement on behalf of the entire Labour group in respect of those findings. I think firstly what we would like to do is confirm our group's commitment to the Labour principles. And in the spirit of the principles of openness and honesty, I can share with you the outcome of our own investigation into the cause of this incorrect statement being made in an election leaflet during the borough elections. This arose from a genuine misunderstanding between some of the people involved in producing the leaflet. And that initial error was compounded by our collective failure to spot the inaccuracy before the leaflet was published. So I can confirm that was not a deliberate attempt to mislead people. It was rather a careless error. We sincerely regret this error, and hence Councillors Bello and Nagra have complied with the Code of Conduct process and will be fulfilling the requirements from that, and they formally accept accountability on behalf of our local party, because unfortunately there were more than 2 people involved in this. So again, looking at the known principle of objectivity, we've kind of drained up on our process for producing literature, and we've introduced some additional steps to avoid a similar error happening in the future. So please accept our assurance that there is no intention to breach the Code of Conduct. Having done so, we are happy to hold to account and to apologise for that error.
Thank you, Jean, we really appreciate it. Thank you. Let's move on to item 9 now, which is future agenda items. Does anybody have any items that they wish to be included in the future agenda? No, if you think of anything, then please contact one of the officers. Thank you very much. Item 10 is publicity and website. Does anybody have any items that they wish to be publicised? Alison.
In light of what we've all discussed this evening, could we consider an article feature on the Friends of Woodford Park in the next Woodley Herald.
Absolutely. I don't know when the last one of those was in the Herald, but it would be good to look back and see if we do something like that. Brilliant, thank you very much. That's super. Anything else? No?
Can I just add one comment, please?
Related to... Yes, please, Nick.
I joined David on the climate week for the walk around the park, and I had a long discussion with him. He's having great problems finding volunteers. So if we're going to put a report in the Herald, can I suggest that we also give David Progan's telephone number, so if anyone's interested in helping him, they can contact him.
Right.
I think we do it collaboratively, David, so that he gets what he wants. Thank you, David. That's a very helpful comment. Okay, thank you. Finally, item 11 is simply to note that Councillor Robert Hawkins is standing down as a Conservative group appointment to the Leisure Services Committee and is being replaced by Councillor David Brown. Thank you very much. So I haven't got my watch on.
It is 8:46.
So at 8:46, I call this meeting to close. Thank you everybody for attending.
Maybe